Krashen's hypotheses resonated with a lot of teachers because they were simple and they were applicable pedagogically, okay? His first one was natural order, saying that there is a natural order to learning, but we don't know it, okay? Basically. In juggling, your natural order might be starting with 1 ball, then going to 2 balls, and going to 3 balls. But after you get up to 3 balls, doing tricks, is this trick more difficult or more complicated than this trick, or what trick? And the grammar gets more complicated, and we don't know the natural order. And what is your name? David, for example, started juggling right away with outside juggling, which is normally much more difficult, okay? But it was the natural procedure for him, okay? And so we need to accept that with our students, that they're going to jump far ahead of us sometimes and not follow what we think is the natural order, maybe, okay? So number 2 is the most famous one, the input hypothesis. I plus 1, I is your input level that you can handle. Plus 1 is stretching you, trying to give you something more, okay? Krashen also says that it's hard to figure out what the I plus 1 is exactly, so you give them roughly, approximately, and sometimes you're going to overshoot it and give them I plus 10, they're going to get frustrated. Sometimes you're going to undershoot and give I minus 5, and they're going to be bored. And like I was saying before, a teacher teaching a large group has no chance of hitting everybody's I plus 1, and that's why the pair work and the group work usually works better, okay? This is compared by teachers and a lot of other people a lot of times in sociocultural theory to the ZPD, Zone of Proximal Development. But purists say that they're very, very different, and they do have different origins, and there's articles written about that. Affective filter, emotions. If you're a student, if you've got people's input level, you know it, and you're giving them I plus 1, you're in the natural order and everything, it still may not work. If they had a fight with their boyfriend or girlfriend before class, their affective filter's up, okay? If they hated the subject teacher the last 3 years, and they just hate English, so it's a different task that you have before you, okay, the affective filter. And again, the affective filter has a roller coaster, sometimes short term, sometimes long term, okay? So by moment. Acquisition versus learning, Krashen says that these are 2 very different things. Acquisition is what you do out in the world. You talk with people and you acquire language naturally. Learning is what you do in school. You learn about language. And he says that one knowledge set doesn't really help out the other knowledge set. Most theorists say that there's an overlap nowadays, okay? It's unconscious learning is the acquisition part, and then there's the conscious learning. In juggling, some of you probably made steps that you thought, wow, how am I doing this? What's going on here? And it's an unconscious thing. Consciously, we can actually teach and get people to think about doing different things, and sometimes that helps. So there's an overlap. Behavior versus telling, outside school versus inside. That's all, acquisition versus learning. Monitor hypothesis uses the acquisition learning hypothesis, and it's manifested. And that's what the diagram at the bottom is about. And this is a re-description, a re-representation, if you like, of the monitor hypothesis. Krashen says that when you use your monitor, your metacognitive stock of knowledge about language, okay, that it comes in when you start to speak or after you've already spoken, and maybe it corrects you. So if you have a speaker who says, yesterday I went to the store. The monitor is saying, wait a minute, I'm making a mistake, go back, correct it, okay? And that little trombone there or whatever is supposed to be diagramming that. You start speaking from your acquisition bank, if you like, and then the monitor can come in just before or just after, okay? Now there's an overuser and an underuser. Oh, first of all, in order to use the monitor, there's 3 things. You need to know the rule, you need time to think about the rule, and thinking about form, okay? And this you can do when you're writing, usually, or doing a prepared speech. So it can be useful, okay? You're learning. The overuser of the monitor, though, has internal dialogue very often in their head, and they're shouting out, wrong, wait before you speak, get it right, stupid. What was the future perfect past of go? And they have lathophobic aphasia. Lathophobic aphasia means fear of making mistakes, and aphasia means you can't speak. Okay, so they're so afraid of making a mistake that they can't speak. All right. Nevertheless, these people are very often good on conventional tests because on the test you have time and you can apply your monitor and what's right or wrong. The underuser of the monitor is the guy on the right who went to LA for the summer and played basketball on the street with a bunch of kids and came back speaking slang. Okay? And I don't care, no way, man, I want to know, I'm gonna, give me 5. They're speaking a lot of slang. When their teachers correct them, it's often useless, and they're often very bad on conventional tests. When they do take tests, and you might recognize yourself sometimes in this, they don't think of rules. They say it over and over, the different options, and which one feels best. And that's an intuitive acquisition thing they're trying to access. Okay? But there is an optimal use of the monitor. It is useful for certain things. We just need to know when to use it. If you use it too much in conversation, you don't have conversation.